Good evening. My name is Dave Rosenstein. I'm a member of Community Board 8 and your host for tonight's show. Our first guest is David Menegon. David has been a public member of the Community Board's Transportation Committee before his April appointment. In September, David will retire as a full colonel in the U.S. Army Reserves after 30 years of service. As a member of its Civil Affairs Unit, he served 2 tours in Iraq. He has been active in local political organizations and has run for public office. He recently retired from Xerox after 25 years. David is a graduate of Central Connecticut State University. David, welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
How does trying to make a difference in New York City, where change comes very slowly as a rule, compare with trying to rebuild cities in war-torn Iraq?
There's some similarities. People want to have a better quality of life, and it's all about, civil society and improving it. The only real difference in Iraq is I did 2 tours there, 2003 and 2004, and I went back in 2008. And after the Saddam regime, it was decades of Iraqis being told what to do from Baghdad. So the challenge was how to get Iraqis to be empowered at the local level, having something similar to like a community board. If anything, New York City taught me how to build civil society from the ground up, and a lot of those expertise I brought over to Iraq. So teaching Iraqis how to have elections, how to have prioritize public works projects, how to budget for those. I had at one time over $1 billion budget. I had a full staff that looked at development for 2.5 million people. So we have to look at every aspect of making people's lives and improving it.
Now, you were a member of the Transportation Committee before you were appointed to the board. How did that come about? And maybe what's a public member? People may not know that there is such a thing.
There's 50 members of the community board, and there are committees such as transportation, youth and education, housing, seniors, and each has 2 vacancies for public members. Now, they're not voting members in the regular community board meeting, but they do vote in the committees. I've been a public member of the Transportation Committee for 3 years. What got me interested in that is, safety on the streets, having the buses run on time, making sure we have bike share, but have safe bike lanes. That's how I got involved with that. And I hope people get involved in the community board, look on the website and go to some community board meetings and perhaps volunteer to be public members.
Now, a public member becomes a public member how?
You have to go to 6 meetings. And after you go to 6 meetings, get to know the people on the committee, and you're usually appointed by the chair of the committee to the community board chairman, and it's approved. And after going to about a year of meetings, I held my hand up and said I'd volunteer to make a commitment, and it's been 3 years of good work, and I've enjoyed it very much.
Now, for somebody who's interested in serving on a community board, if they just fill out an application and send it to the borough president with no prior experience or dealing with the community board or familiarity with the community board, they have less of a chance, I would guess, than somebody who serves as a public member.
There's only 50 members, and you want to make sure that you get individuals on the community board that have good skills when facilitating meetings, understanding the issues in the community, be able to get consensus and work with people that would not ordinarily get along or work together. So I would recommend being a public member for a year, seeing how you like it, picking the issues that are important to you and make an impact on that as a public member. And then from there, you can make educated decisions on who you should have on the community board. The community is very fragile, and we need to have activists that understand the issues so we have a better quality of life, and that's what it's all about.
And we do have public members who are simply interested in parks or
That's right.
something else, and they serve as public members, but they don't have the time or the inclination to apply for appointment.
That's right. That's right.
So it's an opportunity that the public should know about. Aside from transportation, do you serve on other committees?
I do. I serve on the Youth and Education Committee, and I chose that because for over 15 years I've been a volunteer for an after-school program for children called the Knickerbocker Grays. It's actually the oldest after-school activity in the country, founded in 1881. The ages are for boys and girls 5 to 15, and they actually drill in the Park Avenue Armory on 68th Street. When the Conservancy took over the Armory, that's when I really started to get involved in politics in the community board meeting, because I wanted to make sure that, one, that the Conservancy took over the Armory and fixed it up, and they've done a great job, and 2, that the kids get to stay in the Armory. It's very important that we not just fix up the buildings in the community and landmark them, but also preserve the institutions that make the character of the Upper East Side. And Knickerbocker Grays for 130 years have done great work in building
Sounds fascinating. I
leaders.
wish we had more time to learn about it. Is it a quasi-military
No,
affiliated program? You mentioned drilling.
Yeah, it has military traditions. It was founded by mothers in 1881, and a lot of the first instructors of the children were veterans from the Civil War. And there's always been a commandant, a military person in charge of the Corps, and they call it a Corps, like at West Point. It's a Corps of Cadets. And it has some military traditions, but they focus on history, civil service. The cadets do the color guards, a lot of the patriotic societies here in New York City.
We've got to do a show on that sometime in the future. It sounds fascinating. You told a reporter back in 2013 when you were running for the state assembly that your civil affairs work at the Army gave you a good perspective on long-term strategic planning for a community. How do we apply that? How would you apply that to this?
Well, it's very important to understand the issues. And if I was to make some similarities between Iraq and here in the Upper East Side, what we need is we have to make sure that we have safe streets. People are concerned about the bike lanes. I'm a supporter of the bike lanes and bikes, city bike, but we have to make sure that people know how to use the bike safely and adhere to traffic laws. Also, housing. You know, as we get to the completion of the 2nd Avenue subway, we're going to have seniors that are going to need affordable housing. So my concern is as the market rate goes up and rents go up, how are we going to think long term over the next 20 years to make sure that seniors get to stay in their homes? We have an elderly population, and it's getting older and older, so we have to make sure that the city is safe for seniors and senior friendly.
That's another subject that we have to go into more because there's going to be displacement as buildings are assembled. Old 5-story walk-ups along 2nd Avenue are assembled into development sites. Right. They're going to come down, and the people who live there are going to be moved out either gently or aggressively and are going to need alternatives if they want to continue to live in their community. What else haven't I asked you that might indicate some of your interests in serving in the community board and being active in the community?
I really learned a lot being a public member of the community board, and I really realized, and I've worked on political campaigns, I was a president of a political club, but the most important grassroots level is the community board. You have people who have lived in the community a long time. They understand the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood. They understand the needs for the seniors and for children. As we have an influx of more people moving into the city, how are we going to accommodate more seats for children in school and make sure that we have a middle school and high schools to follow those kids as they get older? Basically, the community board is the heart and soul that makes the city run. We're the advisory to the government officials and the city to make sure that we have a good quality of life.
Education committee, you serve on it.
Well, it's a very important committee. Since I volunteer twice a week with this after-school program for kids, I really have an understanding of what parents are concerned about. They want to have more choices. Some want charter schools. We need to invest more in our public education system. Parents need more choices. It's shocking to me that when kids go to pre-K, it's an audition process. And we have to have more options for parents and feel comfortable where they send their kids and have more cost-effective alternatives for them.
This has been great. Thank you so much for making time for us and coming in to talk about community board service.
David, it's a pleasure to be here. I hope to come back.
Wonderful.